everyone, and welcome to the Diplomacy Timing Window, where the rules are discussed and our opinions don't matter. My name is Hungry Hippos.
I'm Kazadoom.
I'm the Half-Heard.
On today's episode, the Ghosts are out. Update 1.18. I feel like they're a fan favorite and got ghosted until recently. I guess the flagship wormhole was a little bit of a mess to implement, but they are a fun faction and quite a few notables. They haunt your wormhole systems just when you're feeling safe and relaxed. They scare the hell out of you with a flagship and entire armada at your doorstep with gift in hand. The gift? Immediate destruction of one of your non-fighter ships. Surprise! Dimensional Splicer.
Yeah, I would say one of the notables is that, in my opinion, they're one of the safest factions in the game. Their home system is one tile further away when you compare it to every other faction, and that's all thanks to the Creuss gate. Just in general, I think it's they're very difficult to get to their home system and to siege their home. So, I think that's a pretty notable difference with this faction.
Other notable is, why the hell is their flagship only got a single 5-hit? Who cares if it has a peekaboo ability? I want double 5s.
Yeah, that seems like a bit of an injustice to the flagship there.
Yeah, I mean, this picture we have, the jacked ghost, it only works if you get a double 5 with your flagship.
I mean, it has one of the craziest abilities that you can have, which is a movement ability to basically fly through your flagship using your Creuss gate or your wormhole in your home system. But by itself, it's pretty bad. It doesn't do much on its own.
I suppose I gotta ask, is this what you envision the ghosts to be?
I think given their legendary status and how much people wanted it, people envision this, but what you get is probably closer to maybe a Casper the Friendly Ghost, but
yeah,
but with a little bit more of a menacing face.
Yeah. And last but not least, it's actually interesting because since playing PUK so much, there's so many factions that now have movement 2 out of the gate, out of the Creuss gate. But in the base game, the Ghosts are actually the only faction that have movement 2, actually 3 technically, with their movement bonus from the home system. So they're the only ones that can get next to Mechatol without research or warfare or anything. So that kind of makes them unique in a sense.
Yeah, and that's pretty interesting, actually. I wonder, I'm curious what you guys think. Does this make the ghosts, I guess, generally getting to Mechatol first? I would think on average they should.
I always
right?
feel when I use their movement, I get into battle with someone and that haunts me for the rest of the game.
That at least you're playing thematically there, haunting
Yeah.
yourself.
One engagement, one person that you move in somewhere where they actually shouldn't care, but for some reason they care, and you're basically screwing yourself for the rest of the game.
This is a similar problem that you hear a lot with Winu. That if you can get to Mechatol with Winu first, that's great because you can get it for free and you can put a space dock and a space cannon out, I believe. One of those two. Probably a little hazy on the rules there.
Both, you get both.
But you are, as an essence, overextended if you get there first, and people take advantage of that. But ghosts have a unique, as we've talked about, safety mechanism, and that's their home system is one further away.
But you have a hard time gathering the 6 influence because you only start with 1 carrier, and I mean you have 4 infantry, but you've only 1 carrier to work with. So it's hard to get much in the way to Mechatol. It's hard to get your own slice to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting to get a little bit into early game Creuss moves, but we haven't really gone over everything that makes them notable. Let's do the techs.
Yeah, they have 2 fun techs. I mean, they implemented the wormhole generator Omega. So it's basically an action to place a wormhole token into a system you control or an empty non-home system. mean, the only downside for this is, in my opinion, the double blue prerequisite that makes it hard to get there.
I would
you
think
already
this
have-
means that getting that blue skip in your slice is pretty important. That's what I would think.
Yeah, blue skip is definitely a premium if you can get one. That's great.
Yeah, because I think this is a great tech to have, and to get there early really gives you options around the map.
Yeah, but for me, it's often like a promissory note basically does the same thing, and if you can pay somebody to set it up for you, that's probably preferable than having the wormhole generator if you don't have the blue tech skip. But it's also good if you can place it later on somewhere, move the token away maybe. But yeah, I have to say I'm not a big fan of this, but you can do a lot with this.
There's a lot of fun strategies that can be put into place if you can get that token in unique places.
Yeah.
But way out into left field is a red faction tech, Dimensional Splicer, and this one's a little special because the app had to do a little bit of workaround. So it says at the start of space combat in a system that contains a wormhole and one or more of your ships, you may produce one hit and assign it to one of your opponent's ships. I believe if I'm not correct, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, the app has it that the Dimensional Splicer means to destroy one of your opponent's ships.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not destroy one, you force your opponent to destroy one ship of his choice. That's not a fighter. So it's basically an assault cannon with a different trigger condition.
But it is kind of way out in left field as it requires one red prereq, and combining blue and red are not often tech paths that one would go down.
Now, I know probably one of the big questions that people have around this change in the Twilight Wars version is why? Why did they decide to change the tech? What was wrong with the original rules implementation?
Does it have to do with timing windows?
Yes. Yes, it does. Everything has to do with timing windows, and that's what we're here to talk about. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'd like to give a shot at trying to reason out, where the change came from. And I mean, if you listen to the update video, they do make reference to nested timing windows. They say that one of the big issues implementing it rules as written was that it created a lot of nested timing windows. And I think what they mean by that is, when you're assigning hits, right, that's a specific thing that has a lot of reactions possible to it, right? You can sustain damage, you can play shields holding. Those are the two main ones that kind of come to mind. And then once those are played, of course, you can sabotage those, right? If Chaw's in the game and they have their green tech instinct training, they can use that. So I think the issue essentially is that, this ability is used at the start of space combat. And if you use it and you do it the way the rules are written, you're essentially forcing a kind of mini combat round within the start of space combat timing window. And I think that's where the complexity.
So those sub timing windows of shields holding and sustained damage, that's basically after the start of space combat, after the rolling of the dice, right?
Right.
And so the app can't do that because then.
Well, it's not. I think it's just not set up that way.
Right.
Right. I think it would either require some, it depends how they would have done it, right? If they wanted to go with the rules as written, right, they would either need to, I guess, open up some separate either sub window or UI interface to kind of bring you from the start of a space combat ability round and go into the specific Dimensional Splicer ability rounds, right? And that would be kind of like the nested timing windows we're talking about. Or they could have just, left it so that you could just still continue to resolve other start of combat But I think that would have got really messy, right? Because imagine you dimensional splicer, and instead of assigning the hit, you play morale boost, right? And then it could get confusing because it's like, well, okay, well, when are you assigning the hit, right? And when are you playing? When are you sustaining damage, right? What if direct hit gets played, and it's just
yeah, it could get
Yeah, I mean,
it gets confusing.
in the end, it's something that confuses me every now and then is the timing window that sabotage is not its own timing window.
Yeah.
Probably plays into this here as well.
yeah, exactly.
It's
And
like the
so I
round
think,
and
yeah, I
there's
think it's
too
not that
much
it's
going
not
on.
possible. I think it's just that there, it would have required some new kind of timing window structures within the code that didn't exist, and you know, just for the sake of flow, I think, and to keep things simple, right? This was the preferred method.
Yeah. I mean,
It'll be before, like, definitely we'll talk now about like the pros and cons, but the last thing I just want to say on that is I think it was an interesting decision. I'm really curious to see how it plays out, right? In terms of affecting the ghosts and the usefulness of this tech. And it'll be interesting because I really think that how this impacts them as a faction, we could see similar things coming right for Yin and Mentak to come, because they both have very similar things of nested timing windows and combat type abilities outside
they have
of
pre-combat shots that can be fired that
Exactly.
seem to be the problem in this thing. Yeah.
So I'm curious. Let's just do like a little round of opinion about what you think has a true balance been achieved in order to get an appropriate reduction of timing windows with the kind of the spirit of what the tech is supposed to provide. My opinion, I think the trade-off is good because the dimensional splicer is originally supposed to allow the ghost to assign a hit to one of the units that they're invading, the sectors that they're invading. But in this case, the app is saying, well, the other person gets to decide, but they have to destroy a non-fighter ship. I think it's a good enough trade-off. In very select circumstances, will the desire to select where the hit goes is probably going to be a big deal. But for the most part, I think the trade-off works. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think there are ups and downs. Definitely, I will miss the opportunity to just snipe a carrier coming in with 4 infantry to take my system. I think that's the most useful.
That's probably
thing
the
to
most
do
significant one for sure, as a defensive deterrent. Yeah.
Let's go back to this. That would be strong ghost.
that's where it's strong. No, it's not even. That's not even the strongest part, but that's the thing you can consistently do. And the second thing I tend to do with it is just to tag a warsun and try to direct hit it, or at least bluff it, to stop people from flying in the warsuns into my wormhole systems. But then if I don't have it, I don't need to bluff it anymore. He just pays a tax for flying into my system, which is more consistent than the other stuff, in my opinion. So I like the change. It's pretty similar to what it does, and you're just less like action cards don't play into it as much as they do before. Because if you have a direct hit, it's the most amazing thing ever against flagships and warsuns. If the other person has shields holding, it screws up your plan completely. If there's sabotage, it screws your plan completely. And now it's just, okay, you pay a ship for it, similar to assault cannon, and that's it.
Half-Heard, what do you think?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I mean, it's great points by Kaza, and I think so if I had to sum it up, I would say that it's more consistent overall, the way the change is, right? It's a more reliable, consistent ability, but it'll never have the strongest examples, right? Even though they are very niche, right? You won't be able to do some of those really big impact. So it'll be interesting, right? Because you'll miss out on those very niche, big impact uses, but I think you'll generally see a much more consistent, usable ability overall.
That's fair. So let's get into early game strat. There's obviously a problem with the lack of a second carrier. It kind of hurts you at the beginning. So you're quite dependent on warfare timing, meaning I'd like to probably start off with a warfare strategy card, or at least something that could help you wait out a warfare secondary.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah,
it
I mean,
depends what
they-
you're trying to do too, right? Because going back now to our Mechatol rush talk,
Mhm.
I think if your strategy is to rush Mechatol, then you're a little more open, right? You can choose your strategy cards around that. If you have a lot of good, influence planets in your slice, right? Diplomacy might become more enticing because then you can time it to match your Mechatol taking, or you go with trade to get some trade goods to offset the influence cost. But definitely, I mean, off the bat, I would agree warfare seems like the best, just because you want to get more stuff produced and pumping out of your home system to go gobble up more planets.
I mean, it's not necessarily you picking warfare, but you need, like, if you want to have more than one additional system, you need a warfare secondary to build some stuff in your home system. Otherwise, you're kind of locked into having only one system for round 2, and that's usually not a place I like to be in. I like my systems under control.
Yeah,
I
the
do
other
like
problem
with them.
Go
Sorry.
ahead, Halford.
I was just going to mention, I do like them starting with the 2 destroyers, right? As well, because, with their speed boost, they can move up to 4 tiles. And I've already started in a couple of games where I used one of those to go as a trade convoy, right? To get out there to facilitate early game trading, which is super helpful.
Yeah, it does help.
Yeah.
And if you can get that promissory
note
out, then you become even more mobile if someone's willing to place it somewhere.
And I also have to say, for me, the more I play TI, the more I appreciate early game destroyers, especially over cruisers, because they are amazing if somebody brings fighters in the early game.
With
more of a
hit nine?
deterrent, I guess.
They hit as good as a dreadnought because they roll 3 times on the 9 in total, which is equivalent to a dreadnought.
Not sure the statistics, the probabilities work that way.
It's 5. No, I know, but it's 5+, which is 6 out of 10 versus 3 times 9 out of 10. 2 out of 10. So if you just straight up add them up, you have a higher variance, obviously, but you have the same average hit count against fighter carrying stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just one of my things that I realized. I think that I just love Destroyer, especially Destroyer 2.
So we like destroyers.
I like destroyers. Yeah, most people don't like them, but
anyone playing against Kaza, he likes the destroyers. He thinks they're as good as dreadnoughts.
Yes.
I mean, the variance is going to be way off, and that's why in my head it's hard for me to equate them. But the movement does help with trading. So let's get on to mid game. What do you guys think there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have a hard time with the tech path with them. I feel they don't really have a thing that you're tunnel visioned into. I like the faction tax, but I don't think they're a must-have. So it's kind of more about the unit upgrades that I want than actually the other techs around it to make sense of it. You can go PDS if you have a lot of wormholes around you to defend your slice. You can go into the carrier fighter dreadnought cluster, I guess, similar to Soul. So yeah.
So you are on record in saying you don't like assault cannon?
I like it, but how to get there is the problem.
I mean, it's assault cannon is a triple prereq red, and dimensional splicer is a single prereq red. Granted, it's like a modified specialized assault cannon, but still,
if you don't have the wormholes to use it in, then why bother?
But it's also another red to get you to your destroyer too, Kaza.
And to assault cannon.
Yeah,
I mean, actually, I have a question.
It's great.
That's a good point.
they're just so map dependent. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you have a map without wormholes, like in one of my games, which is 2 wormholes on the whole map, that are the empty spaces that are next to each other. So why would anybody fly in there? It's like, yeah.
Could you combine Dimensional Slicer with Assault Cannon
Sure.
on a move? Like that would be pretty hard.
Sure you can, but I mean, you basically can do it on your flagship anytime you want to. That's the only use I see for Dimensional Splice if the map's bad. It's good, but it's not amazing. Might as well do other stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, your flagship is kind of a core part of Ghost strategy, in my opinion. Moving you around everywhere, getting your armada from your home system to where the flagship is, and then adding Dimensional Splicer to, kick them in the pants.
I know, I just hate death balls, and whenever I actually build my flagship, everybody gets so scared that they pile up on me and destroy me. So that's where I'm coming from, I guess.
The more I think about it, the more I begin to like Ghosts more. I have to admit, going into this, I was like, I'm not a huge fan of the Ghosts of Creuss, as much as our strong Casper says otherwise. This is not my favorite, but after we just start to describe Dimensional Splicer and going down a red path, perhaps with the flagship, that could be strong.
I would say the tech, especially if you go into the faction techs or not, strongly depends on if you have the appropriate tech skips available. That's, I think, the key. If you can get a red or a blue tech skip, go for them. If not, they might not be worth it, and you could do better things.
I'm gonna go complete 180 from you, Kaza, and I'm gonna say, I love the faction techs, and you get them. And here's where I'm coming from. Give you two words: PDS Ghosts.
PDS Ghosts. Where is this going?
So you get the red, right? You get PDSs up in your home system, and now your flagship has an assault cannon on it and acts as essentially a Shaw flagship.
Shit.
Yeah, it does. Yep.
Oh, PDS baboon.
How about that?
I love it. Holy crap, that's a good idea.
And if you have PDS on Quan, you can also shoot into the other wormhole systems. Yes, it's great, but it's again map dependent, so it's hard to pin them down.
But it's not even map dependent if you're going with the flagship strat. You just
it's just a death ball. People just avoid you or fly through your thing with light wave into your home system.
That is the one counter. For sure.
It's dumb. It's just dumb.
I reply to that wormhole. That home invasion with what Twilight Imperium's original game had in mind. We do not mean to offend the honored ambassador. We mean only to imply that should his ship attempt to pass through the gate, it will not return.
Yep. But why would you ever leave the home system if you capture it? So yeah, just saying that's.
Kaza's not a fan.
It's fun. It's really fun. It's just frustrating. I've played Ghost several times in PUK and in the base game, and especially in the late game. Like, they're great. I love them, but there's 3 stupid agendas that always seem to screw me over.
Which ones are those?
Yeah, tell us.
Talk about PDS strategy, enforce the travel ban, destroy every PDS next to a wormhole. Thank you.
Oh,
yeah. There
that
you go.
Hurts.
That's a brutal one.
Hurts.
That's the least offensive one for me. But then there's wormhole research. Destroy all ships in alpha and beta wormholes.
Brutal. For
a research that's free. So if you actually use your faction tech, you get destroyed by it.
Everything.
Thank you.
You might lose everything.
You might lose everything.
Jeez.
Fortunately, this is not in TI Wars yet, so that's good for Ghosts. And the last one that's the most offensive, and that happened to me, I think, 5 days ago. Wormhole reconstruction. Well, put a token in every system with a wormhole that has ships in it.
Oh, that's every delta, alpha, beta
every
wormhole,
delta,
your
alpha,
home
beta,
system.
your flagship is like,
Brutal.
bam, you just don't do anything for a round. So
Yeah.
Seems like
Yeah.
a disproportionate amount of agendas that that are really hating on the ghosts.
yes, but fortunately, really, like wormhole research and wormhole reconstruction, the two biggest offenders are not in the game yet, and this is what makes me most exciting
Ah.
about playing Ghosts again.
There you go. So now's the time, right? This is
Now's the time.
these are
It's
the
not
glory
easy.
days for ghosts.
This is the timing window for Ghosts to shine.
Beautiful.
This is where they can show themselves to be the beastly ghosts until all the muscles get popped
Yeah.
when everything
All
gets
right.
put into place.
So yeah, that's great. So that hopefully gives them time to shine because they're such a fun faction. And by the number of people asking for ghosts, it's pretty clear that they're a fan favorite, and it was high time for them to be implemented. So yeah, that's amazing.
Always exciting to see a faction, an update like this, where you get a faction implemented. It just
Yeah,
feels
maybe
like
they
we're
shake
getting
up-
that much closer to the full game.
Yeah, and maybe they shake up the game because they have, again, like those two things out of the game that really hinders them. And yeah, they're definitely a fun faction. And if they don't get screwed over by the agenda phase, who knows what they can achieve.
So what do
And
you
as
guys say?
said-
Is the hype real?
After this discussion, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Ghosts, but if I am very curious about following kind of a red tech path with them and maybe doing a PDS strat the way Half-Heard described. That would just be kind of fun. Just to
win or
try.
lose, I think you're gonna have fun with it. Right?
Yeah.
They are my favorite faction that I'm the worst with.
Nice.
And judging from the number of posts asking for their implementation, they're definitely a fan favorite. So,
and just to
it could be a
reiterate,
shake-up.
only two factions to go, then this is
That's right.
a wrap. This
Yin
is what
and
I'm looking
Mentak.
forward to most. Yin and Mentak, then every faction is in there, then we can celebrate and
Mhm. Quick bets
Have a
from
great
both of you.
time.
Which one's gonna be the next one?
Mentak.
I would say Yin because the trade pillageability is probably a mess.
Someone needs to counter the space kitties.
Yeah, I personally, I'm hoping it's Mentak. I do love Yin as well. Those guys are nuts. But I could see maybe that
Literally.
one being a little tough.
And everyone who's
Yeah.
listening to this, don't forget to donate to the app to support the development for these next two factions.
That's right.
Well, I think we've spent enough time stalling in this timing window, so let's hit the pass button and keep the game moving.